Howdy, folks. Wide Open with Chris Burandt, episode number 15, coming to you from the Grizz.
BC.
Grizzly Lodge. That means it's the kickoff to our season here. I got Ross Robinson, co-pilot.
What up, Doe?
And we got a special guest, Philip Yribar, hailing from McCall, Idaho.
Yep.
Today we're bringing Phil on. Phil knows probably more about me and the story of BBA than most. He's been we were talking about this last night, Phil. How many years has it been?
I think since 2004 was the first time we officially rode together, but we had met prior to that. You know, I was racing snowcross and you were doing freestyle events, so I was always the pesky little kid bothering you, but eventually, we rode in 2004, and then kind of it all went from there. Yeah,
so just a brief history with Phil. Phil is a videographer that's shot for just about everybody. He's got his own series, the White Gold film series. You've filmed for shot for 509, produced a 509 video.
Volume 6 and 7.
Yep, and then
those are really good videos. By the way.
Yeah, Phil just he's just one of those dudes who has the eye for the shot, and then not only the shot but then the editing to put the shot all together, and so I think what's been really fun over the years, Phil, is, I mean, you've literally been with me just about every single year.
Yeah. I don't think there's been a season since probably 2008 where we haven't linked up and done something, I would think. Or no, it would have been, I guess, 9. But
well, we got a lot of fun stuff to talk about with filming. But let's rewind all the way back and let's tell that this is pretty cool, fun story. Let's talk about how we first met. So I was in McCall.
Mm-hmm.
You were racing at a Rocky Mountain snowcross race. I do not race because I'm terrible. But
his kids beat him in scooter races in the shop last week.
Hey, so. I let them win, okay?
Oh, I don't know if he did, but okay.
You're right, actually. I pulled my groin. But I was up there doing a freestyle contest, and I had my truck and trailer. That year, I was doing the M7 tour for Arctic. We had all the brand new 2005 M7s that had just come out onto the market, and I was parked at the Holiday Inn, and I come out, and there's a note on my window, and the note, I don't remember exactly what it said, but there's something to the effect of, I want to come ride with you, and then it had your name and number.
Yep.
So did you put that on there, or did your dad write the note?
No, I wrote the note, and I mean, because at this point I was 14 and I didn't have a driver's license, so I'm like, pull into there, and let me write a note on his truck. So they did, and then you called me the next morning, and you're like, yeah, we're gonna go ride. Here's the plan, and
I had no idea that this was a 14-year-old kid, right? But I look at the note, I'm like, I want to ride. I'm like, well, I like riding, so let's go ride.
Yeah. So my dad, and you didn't have really a tour that day. It was kind of a free day for you too. It was, yep. And but we kind of knew somebody mutual there at Jim Henson from Henson Power Sports at the time,
the dealership.
So we all basically, my dad just dropped me off at the Shell gas station parking lot, and I loaded up with you guys, and it was pretty nerve-wracking for me, being 14 and just getting dumped into that situation. And I always kind of look at it too, even when you guys have clients, I'm like, if you're not put in that position, you can never get better.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and you were riding a 02
RMK 700 144.
Yeah, those had trailing arms.
Yeah.
And so it was pretty cool. I mean, even that day, I could see, even at that age, I'm like, oh, this little kid's a ripper.
Yeah.
Right. And you got to go get on an M7, which at that time, right, this is a sled that was, in my opinion, revolutionizing mountain riding. And then, sure enough, you were on an M the next year.
Yep.
And, I think, and that's what's, so humbling about this industry is we have to keep the youth excited about wanting to do it. And at that time, you were like me 10 years prior, right? Just all I could do was think about snowmobiling, and it was a way of life and a way of passion.
And
for that.
you know, Ross kind of had told us that the other day too. He's like, well, you know, I watched you growing up riding, and then Ross watched, you know, kind of both of us working together as well.
Yeah.
So it's kind of this cycle.
I remember this 6 and 7 509 series. Like, those were big movies to me, and those were Phil produced those and shot all that, and then you were just like crushing in that. And I was in high school at that time when those were coming out. So yeah, it's cool that those series, now we're all buddies. Right?
Yeah. It is really cool to think of how all that worked. And, you know, the first time I end up going to film with Phil, all I can think about is this 14-year-old kid on his 02 RMK. Like, I can't believe this kid's like working with me now.
And then, I mean, starting with how it all turned into the film stuff too, just for a little backstory on that, in Idaho, we have a senior project in high school, and I just wanted to do something where I could go kind of snowmobile. So it was basically just, I'm going to make a snowmobile movie. But you know, I knew John Heston at this point. I knew a lot of guys that were sort of, you know, a lot of great writers, but a lot of decent names in the industry too. I mean, John was in a lot of the 509 stuff at that point too, and it was kind of just a ploy to go snowmobile, but it turned into something where I really enjoyed it. And at that point, I was just using, you know, a handy cam, stealing my mom and dad's handy cam and going to do it.
Yep. I remember the first film.
Yeah.
I mean, it was full on handy cam.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
And then because after that, well, so I would have gone to, a lot of people ask me, did you go to school for this? You know, I didn't, because I wanted to stay in Idaho, and neither of the schools there offered like a digital cinema course. They offered broadcasting, but I didn't want to shoot the news. So you can learn a lot on the internet and YouTube these days, and practice is key to everything. And, you know, once you figure out something you enjoy, go for it 100%.
Yeah.
So
and it's really cool to see where you've taken that, and you can tell that you do enjoy it. I mean, you know, the other thing about Phil is, and this has happened with all of the people I've ever filmed with. You better be a rider to be able to get into the zones to get the shot. And anyone who knows Phil knows that he was one of the best riders out there too. Right. Not only behind the lens, but also
a lot of the time I end up hitting the same jump or whatever it is after we put the camera away.
Oh, we've had like arguments of like, he's like, if you don't hit that, I'm hitting that. I'm like, I don't want to hit that. That's big, dude. And I mean, or like people are like, that's Phil, or they're watching your film. Like, that's Phil. I'm like, this is his movie. I'm like, yeah, he's in his own movie. Like, he's a shredder.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. I mean, there's nobody else that does that.
Yeah.
That can do that.
I remember a couple years ago, it was actually up here. Phil, I see him like over there setting up his camera, and I'm like, what is he doing? Because I'm not hitting that crap over there. And here he comes. He sets his camera up. His record goes up, knocks out this banger off this cliff, and there was no way he was asking me to do it. I would screw the shot up for sure. And he just comes and hucks off of it, which that was pretty cool. Yeah. Well, let's fast forward a little bit. So we started filming together, and let's just talk about that a little bit. I mean, we were talking about this last night. It was really cool. I mean, you've literally been all over the world with me, filming and capturing content and what we do. And I mean, you've been over to Russia. You've been down to Chile with us multiple times. Obviously, we've spent a lot of time up here at Grizzly and in Colorado. And that's pretty cool. And, you know, to think about all of the things that we've been a part of and with, is pretty cool. And I wanted to ask you one question, and I'm stealing this totally from Ross. That's what I do.
I talk sometimes on this podcast.
I mean,
I got the next one.
Go ahead. You got the next one.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had so many. We've had trials and tribulations, right? You've been there when I dislocated my shoulder in McCall. You were there last year when I bummed my wrist, flipping my sled over on top of me backwards. But, you know, what's a moment over all of these years that we've been filming together? What's a moment that you remember, like, that you're like, was crazy.
Or is it day or
Or
something?
day or
probably.
whatever.
As far as like crazy, as far as like the injury side of things, when you did your shoulder, that was the weirdest thing because you passed out twice and went into full zombie mode. And we're like,
Oh God,
he's dead. Yeah, this is not going to be easy to break to the industry. No, but yeah, that was a weird deal. But
that was actually pretty comical. You're filming. I hit this tree well that was a little frozen. It jams my shoulder, pops my shoulder out, and I'm sitting there and I'm going like this. And you guys come over to me and you're like, "Are you all right?" And I'm like, "I think I'm gonna pass out." Yeah, I'm gonna pass out, and I bigger than.
And then it was John there, right?
Yeah, John
and
was
so
there.
John's like, "All right, hurry! This is our time to act." And while you're out, he's just boom.
Yeah, and that didn't do a damn thing.
Oh,
and then
my
all
God.
I do is I get up, and you guys are like, I thought I was in a wrestling match, and so then I ended up riding out with it dislocated, and
And then on the wrist too, you were like, you were hurting bad there too because you looked at me and you're like, "Phil, I feel the same thing before I was about to pass out." Luckily, that didn't happen again.
yeah,
But,
I was close. I
Yeah.
kept like shaking my head. No, don't pass out.
yeah.
We see a pattern here. Burandt is a passer
Yeah.
outer.
Oh yeah, big
Yeah,
time.
when he gets-
My body's just like, you know what? Peace out.
We're gonna go to sleep for just a second so you can
Yeah.
calm down.
But as far as filming goes, one of the most memorable trips for me was when you went to McCall, and it was the first time we shot on like red.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we had a bunch of help from Sky Pinnick at Rage Films. When I was working for 509, and he shipped me his red and everything, just like, here you go. And it was in McCall, and it was in the spring, but we had good weather and sunlight, and it was just one of those a good trip for filming. And
Was that on the 2012, the orange sled?
Yep.
The 12s.
Yeah, the 12
and
with the 900.
red,
Yeah.
white,
Yeah.
and the red, white, and blue turbo too.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was just a really good trip, and it was cool for me just because it was like using one of my dream cameras, for the first time with somebody of your caliber. So
Yeah.
that one sticks
Yeah.
out to me. But I remember we were in at Wolf Creek one year, early season, and that still seems like it was maybe one of the deepest days.
That was probably 13.
That's
was.
when I had to ride Ross's sled out for him
Oh, that day you're talking?
when we were stuck downhill going down
Yeah.
the drainage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's Will, it was you, me, Rhino, and Phil. Are you talking about that day when Phil's like, I'm going to put the drone in the air, and we're like, we're going to go warm our sleds up. And we got stuck like 4 feet away from Phil in a creek.
There was that one, but there was even before that when you had the red, white, and black Duramax.
Oh, yep.
And I think Sane was there too at this point. But that was like really early season. But it was
That was for like counterbalance probably.
because it was in 509. It's on 509's
okay.
page on their YouTube. But there was that one, and then. But as far as like experience of a film trip, Chile's still pretty insane because like you said, we've been to a lot of places, and when you go to Chile, you're dealing with nice people, good food, good, and you feel like you're on another planet.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really cool for filming wise because it's easier to tell a story that way because there's more stuff to focus on, and you're seeing volcanoes and trees that look like dinosaurs should be coming out. So location wise, that's probably one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And and that's without working with you, I would never probably get to go to places like that either. So that's super cool for me.
Yeah. I think it's so rewinding back to that McCall trip that you're talking about when you're on that orange sled.
Yeah.
It was called Chaos,
Yeah.
right? You kept that sled, took the 900 off it. It became a rental sled, and I rode that sled as a client the next year
Yeah.
when I was 17. Yeah.
Well, and I think to try to butter you up to make you feel better about me putting you on like the most classed out sled in the fleet. I'm like, yeah, I filmed my segment on this sled last year. You better pull your weight around here on it. And it was like, bent A arms
like,
and
yeah.
Well, I just looked at you. I'm like, yep, you're gonna break
Yeah,
shit.
he's gonna wreck stuff. Good luck, kid. But that's just funny how all that was the same sled, right? And then that snowmobile's. Then that actually went back to Polaris or some sort of like.
Yep.
And then this girl who was interning at Polaris walks up to me at Heydays a couple years later with that snowmobile side panels.
Yep.
And she's like, I kept these side panels and like the whole sled's gone or whatever, but we have these panels. Can you guys sign them and stuff? It was like,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, full. And that was like 3 years later.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Well, and I think that's what's so incredible for me to think about is that, you know, we think of these filming segments and filming trips as this opportunity to capture something really special. And there's a lot of things that have to go right for a filming trip to work out.
Right.
I mean, take Grizzly here. We've shot 3 days and we have a day's worth of footage because weather hasn't worked out. We've had guys breaking stuff and you know, all of these things. But, you know, when everything comes together and it's right, it's amazing the stuff that we can capture. And, you know, as a writer too, and I think this is why Phil and I work so good together is I am pushing myself and I am going to go do something that some of the times I really don't want to do, but I know the shot is going to be good.
Yeah.
And if the camera guy doesn't catch it, or if the camera guy isn't as stoked as I am after I pull something like that, I mean, that sucks. I mean, It doesn't make me want to do it.
Yeah.
And that's what's so fun about filming with Phil is he already, like when we stop somewhere, I mean, with the skill set he has on a sled, him and I are literally looking at the same thing. You're coming left or right. Yep. You're going to do it. Yep.
Which is cool for me because then it's like I can worry about my side of the job, which is figuring out where to shoot it from, where I'm not trying to figure out, because some riders I have to go and be like, okay, I kind of have to direct and be like, do you think you go here? And where we're kind of on the same page on what line before we even, talk about it almost.
Yep. And that importance of being able to just get the shot. Yeah. And the one saying that I don't hear from Phil very often, which I hear from a lot of guys who film, can you do it one more time? And most of the time there's one line in there.
Yeah.
And I am going to give it my all on that one line, and I'm going to do it as big as possible. And if the camera guy doesn't get it, then it's just a big waste. It was a waste of me potentially breaking my sled, breaking myself, all of those things for nothing. And so that's what I really like about, I know it's going to be money.
Yeah.
For sure.
Right. Well, that was the question I was going to ask. Dang it.
You're welcome.
And I just wanted you guys to talk about that relationship because you worked together for so long. And there was a moment yesterday when I noticed it. We pulled up, we had the whole group with us. We were going to grab a quick shot. And Chris is like, in between those trees, right to left, going to hop that. And Phil's like, got it. And it was like done in 3 minutes.
And there's like a million trees. And everybody's like, look at what are they talking about?
Exactly. And like I knew what you guys were talking about, but like everybody else was like, what are they doing? And it's so like those times are so fun to be a part of and watch as they kind of unfold because everybody's just on the same wavelength all the time.
Yeah.
Touching back on the filming side of things too, is it's a lot of discipline to like put a whole video or a whole segment together, because the best days, I always say the best days to film are the best days to ride as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of discipline to stop and slow down and be like, okay, it's worth getting a camera out. It takes 5 extra minutes because it's going to be rewarding in the end, right?
Yeah. And I think in the earlier years, we really did struggle with that. And now we know, this
How many times have we said, I wish we would have done that, right?
Yeah. This is our job. Let's get it. Let's do it. Let's get it done.
Yeah. And a segment can be shot. Like you guys have been filming for the last 3 days, and we don't have very much footage. If you get one good day,
like today.
If you get one day, like today's the day,
today,
we're gonna get it today. It just like stacks. And like you can shoot a whole segment in a day, like almost.
Yeah.
If you're lucky.
Yeah. And I think what's funny about that is it really. Those first couple shots set the tone for the day. Weather can dictate that, your sled, how you're feeling on your sled, the success of, if you pull that line first, it really sets the tone. And, I just remember riding that high and like, okay, let's go right there, Phil. Okay. And then he turns over and then we bang out another one there and another one there. And
once it's going, you can kind of keep that energy going. And
and that energy is up here. And then I get to a point and then that energy goes like this.
Yeah.
I gotta go home. I'm tired. I can't feel my arms, and I'm done.
Yeah.
So, so along a lot of the lines of we talk about these really cool moments that has happened filming. We've had we've had a lot of adventures here. Mm-hmm. We added another one yesterday. It was so hilarious. Phil ended up going with Ross and Kyle with one of the groups, and they went down into one of my favorite holes here. And I mean, it is we wonder if we're going to get back out. We probably it's 50-50 whether you're staying the night.
Yeah.
Right. Hopefully you got the right group. Hopefully we don't break anything. Hopefully there's enough snow down in the bottom to get back out. All this stuff. Right. And I'm up top and I'm listening to all the mayhem down there over the radio and I'm talking with my group up top and I'm like, man, I love it down there and just telling them stories.
Yeah.
But I'm like, the one thing about down in there, you never break anything up here where you can get out. You always break something down there. And I was saying, one year we had a drive shaft break. One year we had a bolt break. One year we had, and I'm telling all these stories and I'm like, man, something always breaks in there. And I'm not kidding you. 5 minutes later, Ross comes on the radio and he's like, hey, Burandt. And I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah. It was like that time of day.
Yeah. And I'm like, I go to the guys. I'm like, oh, they broke something. I go back on the radio. That's what the radio makes.
Yeah.
What parts do you need? He's like, and Ross was like, I need a right A-arm. I'm like, oh, I told you.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's, and Phil's just down there like, yep, this is what happens down here.
Yeah.
So.
And what's funny about that is we switched.
I've been there every single time something's broke too.
I know.
Yeah, you don't let me go down there anymore because I haven't been down there and we always break things. But the funny part is like we got a couple shots early in the day and then I went with Phil and Kyle and we were going to go get some shots. And after I went with those two, I didn't get a single shot because like we broke that part. I had to come back here. Like it was just so chaotic.
By the time you're back, it's like, okay, if we don't start the mission on getting out now, it's going to be pretty late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking at Brandt's GoPro clips where he was, and I'm like, dude, Phil should have went with you because like that stuff is actually way easier and better to like stack clips on. So it was
It doesn't always work.
And Phil is like the best at tagging along with that because he's been through it so many times. He's like, all right, we're doing this today. And it is what it is. And we're going to make up for it. Like today's the mission to make up for it.
Well, one of my funniest stories, and it was pretty nerve-wracking and a little embarrassing at the same time, was the McCall trip when I had the first Axis.
Yeah.
I mean, there was like 2 of these in existence, and I was able to get one. You came to my house, so this was a 2016 Axis in 15. And you came to my house and you grabbed it and brought it to McCall. We didn't have
with the lightweight turbo too, right?
Yeah. You had my carbon sled and you had my the Axis. And I mean, these are like 2 Halo snowmobiles, right? The first carbon sled I ever built. You had to feel pretty cool rolling down the highway with those. I had
people like in McCall like that I knew. They're like, where did you get that?
So you come all the way up to McCall. We were having kind of just a bummer snow year down in Colorado that year. And so we were going to film my segment in McCall. And so you came down, you picked everything up, and I flew into McCall. This was the year I dislocated my shoulder. But first day out, literally first day out, first shot.
And Steven was there too for this, right?
Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I sink the freaking Axis in the water. I mean... Whose dumb idea was it to cross the water? I didn't like it at all.
I think it was Steven's.
It sounds like Steven's. He's not here, so it's Steven's idea.
Definitely Steven's. We would have been like,
Chris, do you think you can come across that water right there?
And the reason, so I was like, I had been across just some little water stuff, and I would always get water in my clutches, and I'm like, man, thank gosh I got across that. And that's like one little wheelie across something, you know? And
It wasn't big. It maybe like 20 feet wide of water.
this one,
You think longer?
it felt like it was about a mile. I'm looking at it, I'm like,
Okay, we'll call it 50.
I don't like this at all, at all. And
We're
so
in the lake, right?
It's
Or are you
the-
in the lake?
it was
or-
the inlet
It's
of
the upper
lake.
lake, and it's like where it goes at
in.
the end
Okay.
by the dam there.
So
And
it's pretty deep.
I mean, it is no ice, no slush. This is open water.
yes, and there's ice. Like there's water under. There's ice that comes out.
Yeah.
And that's because that's what's funny is where the skis ended up on the ice.
Yeah. So they go set up on the other side, and I'm just shaking my head. I'm like, and when you're shaking your head before a line, like, I don't want to do this, that is the person on your shoulder slapping you in the helmet saying, knock it off. You shouldn't be doing this. I should have listened to that guy.
Yeah.
And most of the time, I don't listen to him, but
You
this
have,
time I should
you
have.
have a lot of deep conversations with that guy when you're filming.
Yeah,
He's
you
like,
do.
hey, dude. And you're like, wait, I got to get the shot.
Yeah. And so they're set up. And it was actually me and John. We were doing a tandem across the water. And we start going across. And first thing, halfway through, it's like, and I'm like, oh, I'm dead. I'm done.
That's the time you figured out it's not a good idea to put any water skipping on an axis. They just don't like it.
Yeah.
With the way the water
Yep.
came into the panel. And so I'm like, pinned barely. It's like sinking. I'm going down. And here's me, like, I just literally jump on the spindle, jump to the shore, and I'm like, peace out, sled. I'm not getting wet. And here comes the sled, and then here comes Phil diving into the water after the sled. I'm like, whoa, committed.
I totally just jumped in there. It was probably waist deep on the edge there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then we got it out of there, but because luckily the skis did land on the edge of the ice.
Yeah, the skis did, so it kind of held the front end up, and then Phil goes all in, like up to his thighs, and we pull it out.
Somebody had to do it.
It did hydrolock the motor. We flipped the sled upside down, pulled the plugs out. Literally, we had actually Ward from Carl's there. He's like, well, that was easy. And, I had it running in about 45 seconds, and we filmed the rest of the time until I dislocated my shoulder.
Didn't you end
that was
up
a
with
terrible trip.
Yeah.
that one didn't go.
That one didn't go
Very
good.
Did you? Didn't you end up with that sled for like the next season too?
Yeah, and it was totally. Yeah, it was. I ended up having it as a fleet sled.
Fleet sled, yeah.
Yeah. And that green moss must have worked really good for those crank bearings lube down there. And
Yeah, it worked good.
and I'm sure I did a ton of preventative maintenance over the summer on it.
Yeah.
No, it actually worked out good. So I thought that was a unique story. Just one of many that we've been a part of.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of good times over the few years. And it's like, well, like I remember the first time that you came to Chris's place when I was there. I was like, oh boy. Like me trying to learn to film with like Chris for you is like, now it's no big deal, but like Chris executes lines very easily on film. And then like we were talking to Kyle about this too.
Yeah.
It's like learning how to film as a writer is also something like
It's mental too though, because when you're just riding, you're not thinking about that. Where if you stop and set up for one shot, a lot of guys who haven't filmed a lot, they psych themselves out very easily on just the easy where they would do it no problem if we didn't stop and pull a camera out, right?
yeah.
And I think it takes just time to get over that and not think about that side of it.
Yeah, that is one thing that has been something now that I don't think about, but learning how to film is something like to make a B shot look like an A shot. And we saw a couple things where like Kyle, he did the line, but the nose of the sled wasn't up enough, whatever. And it was a cool shot, but it wasn't one of those ones where you're like, damn, right?
A few little things can either cut the shot out of it or it's usable and you can put it in because it looks good.
Or you're looking at the terrain and like, I mean, that's the safe way to go. And you have to go, and it's funny, like when I posted a GoPro clip the other day and someone was saying like, oh, it was fatty. He's like, nothing against you, but you pick some horrible lines. And I'm like, I do, don't I? But I love that. Like he would have gone below the tree and made it easier and or whatever. And filming forces you to make it look hard, because if it doesn't look hard on film, it's a wasted shot. And we have set that bar or that standard so freaking high that if there's not a chance you're wrecking your snowmobile, it's not even a usable shot.
No joke, huh? Yeah. And it's just like, well, it's funny too, because when last year, our most recent stuff that we put out, I guess all three of us now, because we used Phil's footage.
Yeah.
We shot a lot of it up here last year.
Yep.
And Chris was like, you should just edit the web series. And I'm like, I got to work with Phil's red footage, which I've never worked with before, and all this stuff. So like, and then Chris and I had the conversation, how easy your footage is to work with. It's like, that's why we need Phil. Like, these certain shots are so cool. They're so crisp, and they just make putting cool content together very easily. And so that's what's been super fun for me to work with his stuff, is now I'm like, how do I shoot this stuff? Because it is really cool.
Yeah.
And really fun. So,
well, and so Phil, we've, go ahead.
Yeah, and like you've said, on several vlogs and stuff like that, you're like, now you see both sides of it.
Yeah, 100%.
Like,
yeah.
It's not like the most fun thing to get roosted by the camera, by sleds all day, and like, so you've seen both sides of it now, and you're like, okay, I see a new respect for. You said it in one, and like all the filming guys I've ever worked with. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. As I'm getting just pummeled with snow from Burandt and Chile. Yeah.
Oh my God.
You got me a couple good ones sometimes.
Yeah. I've thankfully, in those early days,
you didn't care.
Well, it's not that I didn't care. I didn't really know exactly what was going on. All I was caring about was making the line. But after, when you look back and you see that camera guy like, what the hell? And it's like, his $50,000 camera looks like a snow cone.
Yeah.
It's So I'm a little more mindful of it now. I try to be.
For sure.
I got a good question for you, Phil. So again, we talk about, we've filmed just about every year since whenever. Mm-hmm. And so you've got to see me ride just about every single one of my little unicorn sleds, my mod sleds. Yep. What's been the funnest one that you've had on camera, or what's a sled that stuck out to you?
The blue light, or like the blue and light blue one with the green logos, was that Ludicrous?
No, that was Monster. Yeah.
And it could have just been the film, our film trip with it too, because everything went good and we got awesome shots. But that one, that one looked pretty awesome.
Yeah. That was that first stab at the titanium.
Yeah. Light.
155. 10 or 11 pounds of boost.
Yeah.
Ross couldn't ride it on flat ground.
I couldn't ride it over the meadow, dude.
I will never forget that.
And then even just last season, kind of, the new short tunnel thing. And I watched you have to learn how to re-ride that style, because it was coming around so quick on you, and that's what happened with the wrist too.
Yeah. Well, that's funny. Let's talk about that. So you came out it was end of January for the first film trip and I literally hadn't rode that sled yet.
Yeah.
Just, we get busy. I couldn't get time on. And so that was the first, and man, it felt weird not knowing or not being confident on my sled, because I'm like, things are happening so fast right now, and our snow was sugary and it was just like, it was uncomfortable for me. And then, again, just like all the things that we're talking about, is for me to go make a line look gnarly, it has to be in Narville, and it has to be hard and all this stuff. And I'm riding a sled that I'm not exactly sure what it's going to do yet. And it bit me in January.
Well, yeah, you're going 0 to 100 on something you aren't familiar with.
Yeah.
And that's you should have had a couple. Free
I should have. Yeah. We learned some lessons there for
The
sure.
sled had like 4 miles on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And so I get hurt, and then you end up coming back out with Stephen Clark in March, late February, March.
It was
So,
March,
yeah.
because I wasn't there.
And I hadn't had much more time on the turbo because my wrist just was not in turbo condition.
Mm-hmm.
But I had been riding my short tunnel non-turbo sled a bunch and getting a feel for that. And
where that point is of no return.
Yeah. And so really cool to watch. And even when I watch those clips of January versus the clips in March, to watch the confidence and like you said, just how I was riding the sled.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I mean, that was, I will just call that out. That was the most efficient 2 days we've ever had on film, ever.
Yeah.
I mean, it was banger shot after, and like we literally could go to one zone, and I mean, I think you said we had like 120 clips in a day or something stupid, right? I mean, it was, and it's so magical when things like that happen. We had perfect snow, perfect weather, sled was flawless, rider was on his game.
Yeah.
That's what you were saying. You're like, I couldn't even use everything
Yeah.
that I shot
Right.
in 2 days in all the stuff from that
Yeah.
part of the webisode stuff, right?
Yeah.
For the webisode, like all of that action footage of you was shot in 2 days, like for 10
And you didn't
webisodes.
even use all of it.
No, there's still like, I mean, I used all the A shots, but there's still a lot
Yeah.
of filler stuff that is,
Yep.
And it's funny, when I edited one, I had a buddy like help me look through some footage who's like also really good at like putting these like cinematic, scenes together with awesome sound. And he's like finding these clips that I haven't even like looked at because I'm so buried in footage. So like that's not a bad problem to have at all when you're like, oh, there's a good one.
But it's funny. It is, as a rider, I'm thinking like, why didn't that shot get used, or why didn't that shot get used?
Yeah, seriously.
And it's like, well, that was a waste, right? And so, it's funny, that dynamic is you guys have too much footage and it doesn't even get used. I mean, well, how many times can I go upside down on a re-entry or get gnarly through the trees? And so that's the other thing too, is trying to mix up the shot selection and how to make it not just we're filming the same thing over and over and over and over, and it's hard. It's really hard, and for all the internet typers out there that just like downplay whatever, it's just like you have no idea what is going into this. I mean, there's so much freaking work and building these sleds to be able to do these things.
Yeah,
and
I
all this
hear it all the
stuff.
time. Like, oh, you have the best job. You just get to go out in snowmobile, and like on a real film day, like there's hardly any riding for me, like, and not that I don't love it. I love it. I mean, it's what I always wanted to do, right? But to do it seriously, you still have to take it as a job.
Yeah.
And you do it enough at the end of the season, I totally get burnt out just like anybody else does on spending that many hours doing that. So,
And I think
which is good though, because then you get a break from it in the summer and everything.
I think we've all been together on days where we're all like, oh, we got to get some shots, but man, we just want to kind of go ride.
Yeah.
And we've all been there and stuff.
But yeah, there's been definitely times here that we've filmed that in the day, right? And then it gets a little sloppy, and we just cut it. Like, okay, let's go ride. And then, oh man, what a refreshing feeling. No camera, go sleigh. But then we always, we should have filmed that.
Yeah, that would have been sick. Yeah.
Every time.
Yep. What's funny is when you asked that question to Phil about what his favorite sled was, Monster. Well, we got some good news because we're building another one.
Monster 2.0.
Yeah. And that's why we actually had that conversation when you were like, I want to build a shorty. And it was like, just to go do stupid, silly things. And Kyle and I are like, can we ride it?
I'm like instantly thinking, I'm like, well, I'm not going to do the front end I would run. We're going to have to go a chromoly front end instead of an aluminum front end. Yeah. If Kyle looks at it wrong in the trailer, he'll bend the A-arm. Yeah. But no, I'm really excited about that. That rowdiness and looking at the trends or the shifts of what is being videoed these days. We look at, I look at the silly, like Ross was showing me a pretty sick GoPro clip the other day or yesterday of him just coming across this hill, doing these bow ties, landing exactly back in his track and continuing side hilling, right?
Yeah.
Those are things that we're doing on purpose now.
Yeah.
It didn't happen on purpose. That brings me to this one story. 2 years ago, I was on Ludicrous, my blue 163, 155 tunnel, 163 track, bunch of power, all titanium. And I was coming across this side hill, and I just throw it up, and it did one of those moves, and I landed back in my same track, and I looked back
The
at Phil.
360
The
one.
360, yeah. I'm like, did you see that? And you're like, what just happened?
There was so much snow dust that he went out, kept going out the same way, and I'm like, it just didn't make any sense. And then, but unfortunately, we rewatched it, and there was just so much snow dust, you can't really see what happened, but you can tell it came around just so fast.
Yeah, and that was 3 years ago, and now we're doing those things on purpose with somewhat ease.
Yeah.
And that's where the motivation to build this like short tunneled 155 with a bunch of boosts with a couple lightweight parts. Like, I love doing those things. And you watch what you're doing, Ross, and what Kosterky's doing.
Yeah.
And, Kosterky's just, he is definitely pushing that side of things, where, my riding has shifted. I used to do a lot of that stuff, and I was thinking about this laying in bed last night. I'm like, man, I want one of those big floaters, a step down, and, all of these, like, most people don't even, all of the new followers I have over the last few years, they just see me as this tree riding guy. But
yeah,
I mean, I used to really dig jumping.
Yeah. Your nickname was Big Air Burandt, right?
Yeah. And I mean, things change. Our terrain in Colorado, where we ride now, we have no jumps. Literally no jumps. And so when I come up to Grizzly, I mean, every little lip, I'm like, okay, Phil, get down there. I'm jumping from here and landing over there somewhere.
It's 12 feet, but it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's fun. And, just, it's pretty cool to build these. I've been building these longer tracks because the conditions I ride now are different, and my agenda on the hill is different. I like just getting up to the top of Narville, and I really am enjoying that. And so it's really cool to see the different types of things that people are enjoying watching in the industry right now.
Yeah. So one of my last questions for Phil is, so you've created a lot of content and a lot of films and all that stuff. Do you have one of yours that was maybe it was either your favorite or it was the one that set the tone for your next projects, or?
I would say, so Counterbalance is in which you were in, and it was a lot of good timing for me too, because a lot of previous sled films, they were all kind of just shot with, the same kind of cameras, and cameras were really evolving around the time that I started doing my own stuff. And you could go and get like a Canon DSLR with 60 frames now, because 60 frames before that, to get that, it was like you needed to be on film or it was really expensive still.
Yeah.
So that kind of opened up that, and that was probably the first film though that I had started getting like that cinematic side of it more so. And I think maybe that kind of started the tone for my future work. And that was in 2013. So yeah, probably that one. And then, but my last piece of work, White Gold, I did a White Gold web series on YouTube that was all free and stuff. And then, but the last season, I did White Gold, the film, and really just focused on quality over quantity, or even shock and awe factor. Like, you're not going to see the craziest stuff in there, but it's something that everybody can relate to, and it gives you more of an emotional connection of what a great day of riding on the mountain's like. So that's what I lean towards on this, and I'm proud of it, and it's a lot of work, but
yeah.
Yep.
A lot of super cinematic, deep pow shots.
Yeah.
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 Because you got the winner for it too.
Yeah, and that was the thing too. It was,
oh my god,
there was a year to do a movie. It was last year.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, for me, it really comes down to, how many times, and this is pretty cool to talk about. How many times have you had my ski literally 10 inches from your face with your $50,000 camera sitting there? I'm on 12 pounds of boost.
Yeah.
Can't really see you, but I know kind of where you are.
We've done it long enough now that our trust of coming, or, you coming at me, and it's like, there's still a couple times I'll flinch,
Yeah.
but when other people are like turning away, I'm like, stay just still there most of the time,
And the result is awesome.
Yeah.
To see how the shot turns out, or those, and it's those fadeaway shots of me just like this angry track coming at you and fading away, or just something, and it's funny, like, you trust me as a rider, but my trust in you as the filmer, for me to be putting my everything out on the line for this line, knowing that
the shot's going to be worth it.
You better capture this.
Yeah.
And I don't ever have to think that anymore, because time and time again, I get to see the result. And for me, that's how I can quantify it and justify it in my head that, okay, I'm going to go put it all out on the line for this one shot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a rewarding feeling. And it's, to be honest, it's the reason why I'm able to, for me, keep pushing myself, because I for sure, there's many times that I wouldn't have gone and done it unless there was a camera there.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And that's one of the things that I guess I enjoy about filming. We all just wish we could go ride, but at the same time, I'm like, I know today, as we're talking right here, we're going to eat breakfast, and then we're going to go out, and I'm going to go do things that I wouldn't normally do, because
that you didn't do the last 3 days.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a film day, and I actually couldn't even sleep all that great last night, because I knew we had this podcast. We had to get up early before everybody got out here. And
You're
I
probably
knew
thinking of where you want to kind of go. Yeah.
Thinking about the moment and the shot, and since 2000 and whatever, it still brings the butterflies to me. It makes me think, makes me nervous, makes me excited, and I love that feeling. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, super fun.
Yep.
Especially when you have Chris Burandt, and then Phil's shooting, and Chris is like, you do that. And I'm like, dang it, all right. I'm like, we're going to try. That.
Well, and it's funny, Ross, watching you film, and now we're getting Kyle kind of into it.
Yeah.
You guys are, me 10 years ago of just trying to figure out. And it's so neat when we're reviewing footage, right? You're watching, you're like, man, that felt way cooler. I'm like, yeah, but you needed to rotate. You needed to stand the sled up a little further.
It comes down to the execution ratio, right? It's like the same for you back then, where it's time and practice, and then
failing. Lots of failing.
Yep.
That's how you learn and notice things that are going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Phil, it was awesome having you.
Thanks for having me, guys.
We have so many more stories.
We do.
And fun little facts. We'll have to catch that for another time. But it's cool to be up here at Grizzly again, and it's, it wouldn't be the same without you up here capturing what we do and being able to share it with all of you folks. So again, make sure you can check this full podcast out on YouTube. And then for all of you guys who, when we do these little teaser clips on Instagram, and you're like,
whoa, wait, if they're listening now, they've listened to the whole podcast. So they found the podcast. I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, you're right.
We need to do a separate, do it, and we'll make an Instagram clip for it right now. Go.
Okay. So for those of you watching Instagram right now, wondering, how the heck can I listen to this? You go to podcasts, you look up Chris Burandt, and you hit watch me or listen to me.
Exactly.
Please listen now.
If you search Chris Burandt wherever you want to listen to podcasts, we're there. Or we're on YouTube. Wide Open with Chris Burandt.
I have found people have gotten severely lazy, and all you have to do is ask Siri, hey, Siri, Where's
Seriously.
Chris Burandt's podcast? Or, hey Siri, what the gauntlet question? I've answered it 900 times. Where do I get those hand muffs? Go to my dang website. Go to the Google. The Google will help you.
Google.
Oh.
Anyways, we're really appreciative of you guys listening, and it sure has been a lot of fun, and we're gonna keep continuing to do these, hopefully more on a regular schedule. And Ross, thanks for bringing all of your junk up here to Canada so we could do one live with Philly Phil.
Yeah, I'm surprised it made it.
Yeah.
So Phil 208 is White Gold is on iTunes now. Is that correct?
Yeah. So 208 Productions is my company name, and so that's what all my film stuff on iTunes and YouTube and stuff like that is under. So, yeah, go check that out. There's a whole White Gold web series for free on YouTube, and then if you want to get the film, it's on digital, and it's in 4K too. So if you're into watching quality stuff, check it out.
Cool. I will put all of Phil's links in the show notes and also the description of this video, so you guys can go check that out. Thanks for listening. Be sure you're subscribed. Leave reviews. Those help a ton on iTunes. And, yeah, we love when you share stories and stuff that you're listening, and we'll repost them. So thanks for the love.
And wish us luck filming today.
Yep.
Boom. Okay.
All right.
And sunshine.
Later. Sunshine. Great. Seriously, it's gray, but
It's
we're
gray
going to
right
find
now.
out.
All right.
Not above.
See you guys.
See ya.